Right then, I got a joke for you. My mosasaur's got no nose. How does it smell? Terrible. Anyways, enough with the rubbish jokes. Anyways, so how are we doing, everybody? It's your Mosasaur Prince Steel Tethysaurus Yorkshire, and today I thought I'd go through a bit of an interesting story. Now, I did originally have a recording done of this, but TikTok decided to do its thing again and delete the draft. So this is a curious case of the Mosasaurus missouriensis skull. Now, before we get into that, we're going to do a bit of context on Mosasaurus itself. Now, Mosasaurus was a large mosasaurian mosasaurid, so big lizard, swam in the water, paddle-like limbs, but shark-like tail, all the mosasaurid traits. Now, it lived from about 82.7 to 66 million years ago, so around the Campanian to the big rock at the end of the Maastrichtian. Global distribution, and some of the largest species could be up to 14 metres, particularly the big ladimsen Mosasaurus hoffmanni, which is the outlier in the genus because, well, most other species of Mosasaurus are actually typically slender-bodied, slender-skulled, slender teeth, slender-jawed animals, while Mosasaurus hoffmanni was like, now then, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to lift some weight, and I'm going to get a big lad. And he was a big lad, until that big rock hit him. But Mosasaurus hoffmanni was actually the first discovered and first described mosasaur, so this is the defining mosasaur, if you like. But one that's not really talked about, but was actually found around a similar time, is Mosasaurus missouriensis. So Mosasaurus missouriensis was one of these sort of slender-skulled, slender-jawed, slender-teeth, slender-bodied, slender everything. No. Now, he was a mosasaur that was ranging from about 8 to 9 metres, some of the largest specimens. Slender teeth that are prismatic, so they had sort of a faceted surface, or they had certain structure on the surface. They have fine serrations, so they were built for eating very soft-bodied prey. In fact, we know that these animals ate a lot of fish. And typically, Mosasaurus missouriensis fossils, well, ironically, they're found along the Missouri River. Yeah. But most specimens are actually from the Bear Paw Formation in Canada and also from South Dakota in the USA. Now then, before we get into this story about all this, well, I'm acting as the dentary tip because if the serious wow factor of this story, if this fellow was alive, his jaw would be on the floor. So I'm here to sort of act as that, because I'm sat on the floor. It's jaw dropping. Don't drop me. But anyways, let's go to 1834, and with a man that's very, very integral for this story and somewhat negligent, but we'll get into that. Richard Harlan. So Richard Harlan actually discovered a snout fragment near a riverside near Big Bend in South Dakota. He looked at this snout tip, which is this fella up here, and he said, well, I'm going to call this Ichthyosaurus missouriensis. But it's a mosasaur. But see what I mean? Now, that's probably wondering, well, if he found the snout tip, but where was the rest of this? Well, that actually happened a bit earlier with a man called Major O'Fallon. Now, Major O'Fallon was a former agent of the Indian nations of the Upper Missouri, and he actually found and acquired the skull. So he didn't find the snout tip, he found that. He would later then give the specimen to a man with an also good name. This man was called Prince Maximilian. Brilliant name, isn't it? Obviously not as good as mine. Tethysaurus Yorkshire. Mosasaur Prince Steel. I'll let y'all decide which name's better. So our good friend P. Maximilian decided to actually take the fossil back to Germany because him himself was a German naturalist and explorer, and he did love himself a good fossil. So what he decided to do was, well, I'm going to take this fossil, this fossil skull, back with me to Germany. Aye. And that's what he did. Now, unfortunately, in 1839 there was a bit of a tragedy in terms of fossils. Not with people, but in terms of fossils. Harlan's scientific collection actually suffered a bit of a great loss and actually was salvaged, a good chunk of it was salvaged, from a fire that happened in Philadelphia, which is where the collection was being stored. But then this deepens the mystery because the snout tip, nobody knows what happened to the snout tip around this time. So was it destroyed in the fire or did it make it out? We have no idea. 1842, and we jump to a man called George August Goldfuss. And they'll never guess. He was a German paleontologist, zoologist, and botanist, and he actually looked at the Prince Maximilian skull over in Germany, and he said, well, I'd like to name this a new species. So he actually looked at the skull, described it, and presented it at the geological section of the Natural Scientists Conference at Mays. But also during this time, Harlan decided to move to New Orleans. So we know where this is. but we still don't know where that is. Now, the year after 1843 was actually quite a pivotal in a way, because Harlan, in his new home in New Orleans, unfortunately passed away, and this meant that the knowledge of the snout tip went with him. So where was this? Well, I'll tell you later, but it's pretty interesting. Now, in 1845, Goldfuss officially described and published the description of this skull and called it Mosasaurus maximilianae. What? You heard that right. He actually named it Mosasaurus maximilianae because, well, at the end of the day, he didn't have the knowledge of this, the snout tip, so he thought they were unrelated and therefore gave this thing a new species name. But actually, during the same year, a man by the name of Christian Erich Hermann von Meyer, who was famous for his work on Plateosaurus, the sauropodomorph from the Triassic, he actually noted that the Goldfuss skull and the Harlan snout tip might have come from the same individual. But also, during the late 1800s all the way to the mid 1900s, this was actually supported by Cope, Camp, and Russell. So even they were like, well, hang on a sec, these things probably go together. I don't go with this, I'm just filling in for the dentary tip, but those things, they go together. And also we'll add a bit of a sup with the Mosasaurus missouriensis in the episode, because it received quite a few different names that are now junior synonyms. Ridiculous. Now, from that point on until the year 2005, nothing really happened with this species. Until 2005, when we get to Caldwell and Bell Jr., which announced the rediscovery of the Harlan snout tip. Well, hey! And where did they find it? Well, they found it in Paris. Eh? So how exactly did the snout tip get it sent all the way from America to Paris? Well, what had actually seemed to have happened is that during 1839, Harlan actually went on a European tour and took the snout tip with him. Ah, that's right, he took it with him. I don't know why. I mean, not that kind of tour, not like a band tour, but then again, what would you... I think we should start a band called Harlan Snout. That'd be a great rock band. I'd love it. But anyways, getting back into it. So he actually donated the specimen to the Naturalist Museum in Paris, and that's where the specimen remained for so many years and was listed as just lizard. It was just a lizard. So what exactly happened? So basically, Caldwell and Bell Jr. actually rediscovered the specimen in the Paris collection, looked at it and went, hang on a sec, this is a snout tip, and this is possibly a snout tip that goes with the specimen over in Germany, so the skull, the Goldfuss skull. And what happened is they took a cast of the snout tip and physically matched it up with the Goldfuss skull. And you'll never guess, it was a match. What? So yeah, this paper basically redescribed the snout tip, re-diagnosed Mosasaurus missouriensis, and also synonymized Mosasaurus maximilianae into Mosasaurus missouriensis, so that clears all that up. But then, apparently, it seems like that Harlan and Fuss may have actually known about each other's specimens the entire time. We could have solved this a lot earlier. But anyways, that's the end of the story. To be honest, really weird, really interesting story. You can make an entire drama series out of it, I reckon. Yeah, what would you call it? Harlan Goldfuss Mosasaur conspiracy theory. Nah, that's daft. But anyways, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you found this story quite interesting. I certainly did when I was researching for it. I really do recommend that you go and actually read Caldwell and Bell Jr. 2005. Really interesting paper, goes into a lot of details about this story. Really, really interesting story. But anyways, thank you very much for watching. Hope you have a good day. I'll see you later. Ta-da. Bye.